Good evening, children. Today I am going to continue the chapter of Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. That is the revision part of the chapter. So many of you might be having the doubts, so that your doubts could be cleared up. The main purpose of the revision of this chapter is this only. So now let's talk about. So as you know that in the outline of the chapter we are having the topics of the age of social change, the Russian Revolution, February Revolution in Petrograd, changes after October Revolution, the global influence of the Russian Revolution. So children, I am going to start today with the Russian Revolution. Now, what was this? One of the most important revolutions in Western history exploded in Russia in the year 1917. At this time, the World War I was from the year 1914 to 1918, and this war was creating devastation in Europe. Devastation means पूरा यूरोप जो था उथल पुथल हो रखा था इस वॉर के कारण. The Russian revolutionists took in 1917, brought the communism to Russia and made it the first country in the world to have communist government. देखो वर्ल्ड वॉर चला था, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर from 1914 to 1918, and in 1917 in Russia started the communism, and Russia was the first country to have the communist form of government. It also plunged Russia into a long and bloody civil war, and in Russia communism started, so inside Russia there was a bloody civil war which lasted till 1920. Nearly for 3 years inside Russia, so many wars have started. Civil war means when the people of a nation, they start fighting amongst each other. At the end of which, and after the 3 years, means in the year 1920, the communist had complete control over the entire country. अब जब 1920 आया तो this nation, communist party, was having the complete control. Now, the Bolsheviks who took control of the government, अब जो पूरा control था वो किसके हाथ में आ गया था? That was in the hands of the Bolsheviks. The Bolshevik who took control of the government considered their revolution in Russia as only the first stage of a worldwide communist revolution. Thus, the Russian Revolution marked the beginning of a struggle between communist nations and the capitalist world. So now, this Russian Revolution, it was the beginning of a struggle between communist nation and capitalist nation. Now let me tell you what you mean by capitalist nation. The word capitalist nation means the nation which is financially very strong. And in that, if we talk about a capitalist nation, then the name of USA occurs on the top. USA is a capitalist nation and Russia is a communist nation. Now children, let's move to the Russian Empire in the year 1914. What was the scenario of Russia? To understand the Russian Revolution of 1917 in proper perspective and dimension, one has to understand the tyranny of the Tsars on the one hand and the appalling backwardness of the country and its subjects on the other. तो हम एक चीज़ और याद रखनी पड़ेगी इसमें, that Russia was once a landlocked country with no access to the sea. Most of the territory lay in the north and was uninhabitable, which was due to extreme cold and barrenness of the soil. Thanks to great rulers like Peter the Great and Queen Catherine, Russia extended its border towards the Baltic region. जब इन लोग का रूल आया, पीटर द ग्रेट एंड क्वीन कैथरीन का, तो इन लोगों ने जो अपनी बॉर्डर था उस बॉर्डर को बढ़ाया और ये बाल्टिक रीजन नॉर्थ वेस्ट में और ब्लैक सी कोस्ट में साउथ में चले गए, उनका बॉर्डर इंक्रीज करता गया। रशिया नाउ हैड टेरिटरीज which stretched from Siberia in northern Asia to the Pacific Ocean in the east. अब इनका जब एरिया बढ़ गया, now the boundaries have increased. In the Russian Empire lived many European and Asian peoples. देखो उस समय जो रशिया का एम्पायर था उसमें कई सारे यूरोपियंस भी थे और एशिया के लोग भी थे, मीन्स यूरोपियंस एंड द एशियन पीपल्स वर देयर। ओके, जब एशियन भी हैं और यूरोपियन भी हैं तो it's a simple thing that they would be speaking different languages and followed their own customs. In the European side of Russia, Orthodox Christianity was the major religion. अच्छा, जो यूरोपियन साइड थी वहाँ पे ऑर्थोडॉक्स क्रिश्चियनिटी चलती थी। अभी ऑर्थोडॉक्स क्रिश्चियनिटी क्या होती है? ऑर्थोडॉक्स क्रिश्चियनिटी मीन्स जो पुराने रीति रिवाज वाले थे, जो कैथोलिक्स हुआ करते थे, कैथोलिक्स, the original Christians, they used to be there. अच्छा, अब जो रशिया एम्पायर था उसमें कौन कौन से लोग आते थे? वहाँ पे पोल्स वाले लोग भी थे, लिथुआनिया वाले थे, लाटवियंस के थे, फिन्स थे, जर्मन्स, स्वीडिश, रोमानियंस, द टार्टर्स, जॉर्जियंस, उज़ेबेक्स, कजाक्स, मंगोल्स एंड अर्मानियंस एक्सेट्रा। There were many others who belonged to the Roman Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, Judaism, and Islam. It was the autocracy of the czars that held these nationalities together. Now, ये उस समय जो पूरा सिस्टम था, in that the Khazars were the main. देखो इस वर्ड को I can pronunciate the word CZARS, Khazars, or we can say Tassars, TSARS. Both the words are similar, Khazars or Tassars. Now, if I talk about the crisis of CZARISM, देखो क्या थी? What was this crisis of CZARISM? Let's talk about the crisis of CZARISM. The Russian Khazars, from Peter the Great to Khazar Nicholas II. Okay, Khazar Nicholas II was from 1894 to 1917, nearly for 21 years. Okay, enjoyed unlimited authority. The autocracy was supported by the nobles on the one hand and the church on the other. The nobles enjoyed all the privileges and power and held all key position in administration. देखो उस समय का जो दौर था जब खजार निकोलस पावर में आए, he was having unlimited authority because बहुत ज़्यादा पावर्स थी। अच्छा, इस ऑटोक्रेसी को किसका सपोर्ट था? नोबल्स का था एक तरफ से और दूसरी तरफ से चर्च का। और जो नोबल्स होते थे एट द टाइम, जितने भी मंत्री थे, नोबल्स थे, दे वर एंजॉइंग कंप्लीट प्रिविलेजेस एंड पावर्स। इनके पास अनगिनत शक्तियाँ थी, बहुत सारी पावर्स थी और इनके पास सारे फायदे थे। एंड हेल्प, और जितनी भी इंपॉर्टेंट पोजीशंस होती थी, जो भी टॉप मोस्ट पोजीशंस होती थी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की, दे वर बीइंग हेल्ड बाय द नोबल्स। दिस बैकिंग बाय द चर्च एंड द नोबल्स मेड द खजार द ऑटोक्रेट ऑफ ऑल द रशियंस। देखो अब राजा के पास किसका सपोर्ट था? चर्च का भी सपोर्ट है और जो नोबल्स है उनका भी सपोर्ट है। तो इससे क्या होगा? द किंग विल बिकम द ऑटोक्रेट ऑफ ऑल द रशियंस। सभी की पावर्स, मतलब ब्लाइंड, द किंग विल प्ले द गेम ऑफ अ ब्लाइंड, मतलब सारी पावर्स उनके पास है। द कंडीशंस वर ऑलमोस्ट द सेम एज दैट ऑफ द फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन ऑफ 1789। जैसे कि फ्रांस में हुआ था 1789 के टाइम में, सेम कंडीशंस, सेम प्रिंसिपल्स वो प्रिवेलिंग इन रशिया ऑल्सो। Now let's talk about the Khazar Nicholas. Khazar Nicholas II was a man of good intentions, but his associates were unscrupulous. Though, if I talk individually, if I talk personally about Khazar Nicholas II, good intentions, his intentions were clear, he was working for the betterment, but his associates, associate means his nobles, church people and all that, They were unscrupulous. Unscrupulous means they were misusing the power. While in a number of other European countries, political power had shifted from aristocracy to the middle class. और जो बाकी दुनिया के देश थे, यूरोप के जो दूसरे देशों में, वहाँ पे क्या हुआ था कि जो ऑटोक्रेसी राजा के पास रहती थी, एरिस्टोक्रेसी जो थी, वो उनके हाथों से निकल के जो मिडिल क्लास थी उनके हाथों में आ गई थी. इन रशिया एब्सोल्यूटिज्म वाज स्टिल प्रेवलेंट, लेकिन रशिया में अभी भी वही खेल था. कजार निकोलस राजा के हाथ में ही सारी पावर्स होती थी. द जार बिलीव्ड इन द डिवाइन राइट ऑफ द किंग टू रूल. और इनका मानना होता था, जो कजार थे, इनका मानना ये था कि दिस किंग इज हैविंग द डिवाइन पावर टू रूल. So this kind of intentions the king used to have. Okay, now let's talk about the majority of Russians. अब हम थोड़ी सी बात करते हैं इकोनॉमी एंड सोसाइटी के बारे में. What was the condition of the economy and the society? The majority of Russian people were agriculturalists. When the 20th century began, the percentage of the people dependent on agriculture in the Russian Empire was 85% of the entire population. It was much more than the percentage of agriculture. In the rest of the European countries, for example, France, Germany, only for 40%. Russia was a major exporter of grains. जो रशिया थी वो सबसे बड़ी एक्सपोर्टर थी ग्रेन्स की. Industry was not widespread. The most prominent industrial area, जो सबसे important industrial belts थे, वो थे St. Petersburg and Moscow. A large number of factories existed in 1890s. When the Russian railway network grew larger, there was an increase in foreign investment. The output of coal had doubled by now, and the iron and steel output had increased 4 times. The craftsmen undertook much of the production. By 1900, in some industrial areas, the number of craftsmen and factory workers was equal. अच्छा, उस समय सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम क्या थी? जो टाइम वाली थी. Most of the industry was owned by industrialists and it was their private property. And in the early days of industrialization, there was exploitation of labor. 16 working hours, एक दिन में 24 घंटे होते हैं और 16 घंटे उसमें से काम करना पड़ता था. Child labor and very poor living and working conditions. The working hours were later reduced. बाद में जाके समय घटाया गया and it was now 10 to 12 hours. Workers were divided into groups according to their skills. Women were not paid equal wages, though they formed 31% of the factory labor by 1914. The kind of dress they wore also showed the divisions among workers. जो उनकी यूनिफॉर्म्स होती थी उससे भी पता चल जाता था कौन सा किस कैटेगरी का लेबर है, वर्कर है. The workers went on strike frequently. Most of the strikes took place in the textile industry between 1896 to 1897 and in the metal industry during 1902. The Russian workers started coming under the influence of Marxist doctrines. They even organized the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party in 1898. Similar to the Socialist Party's organization in other parts of Europe. देखो इसमें 3 ग्रुप्स होते थे which we have talked about. When the party, 2 distinct groups emerged. Once were the Mensheviks believed that they needed a party modeled on the lines of similar parties that existed in countries like France or England. but their party was in a minority as most other workers believed there could be no comparison between the requirement in Russia that had absolute monarchy and countries like France or England that had developed political system. ये जो ग्रुप था इट्स नेम वाज मेंसविक. जो दूसरा ग्रुप था इट वाज नोन बाय द नेम ऑफ बॉल्शविक्स. इसमें क्या होता था? द मेजॉरिटी कंप्राइज द बॉल्शविक हु फेवर्ड अ रेवोल्यूशन. द बॉल्शविक्स वर लेड बाय लेनिन. He organized the Bolsheviks party to become the instrument for Russian Revolution that came up in 1917. There was a third party also in Russia. Third group भी था, एक तीसरा group भी था रशिया में, and that was the socialist group. It was a party of Russian peasants. The people of other nationalists had their own parties. Their principal objective was to get out of Russian Empire. The outbreak of the First World War broke the loose threads that held the Russian government together. वहाँ पे वॉर स्टार्ट हो गया, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर, और यहाँ जो रशियन गवर्नमेंट थी वो टूटने लगी. The events that followed not only ended the rule of the Khazars but also introduced an entirely new form of government. अब एकदम एक नए तरीके की सरकार आ गई थी. What the people were waiting for. In the countryside, the condition of the peasants was miserable. The crown, the nobility and the Orthodox Church owned large properties. देखो, जो राजा होता था, जो चर्च वाले लोग थे और जो मंत्री होते थे, उनके पास मैक्सिमम प्रॉपर्टी थी. Cultivation was done. सिर्फ जो cultivation होती थी, that was only in the hands of the peasants. Serfdom had been abolished. Serfdom को हटा दिया गया था in Russia in 1861, but that had failed to improve the conditions of the peasants. लेकिन इससे भी जो हमारे peasants थे, serfdom को हटा तो दिया था, लेकिन अभी भी किसानों की हालत में सुधार नहीं हो पाया था. उनकी जो प्रॉपर्टी थी वो बहुत छोटी होती थी और वो अनइकोनॉमिकल थी. द पीजेंट्स डिड नॉट हैव एनी कैपिटल एज देयर रिसोर्स टू इन्वेस्ट इन द लैंड्स. पीजेंट्स के पास पैसे नहीं होते थे, वो चाह के भी अपना पैसा खेती में नहीं लगा सकते थे क्योंकि उनके पास जो अमाउंट था दैट वाज वेरी लेस. ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स एक्टिंग इन कॉम्बिनेशन मेड देम मिजरेबल. दिस हैड मेड देम लूज रिस्पेक्ट फॉर द नोबिलिटी. The nobles had got their power through the Czar. The peasants refused to pay rent frequently and even murdered landlords. अब peasants का जो गुस्सा था उसका तरीका एकदम अलग था. उन्होंने कहा ना हम कोई रेंट देंगे, ना कोई हम टैक्स देंगे, और यहाँ तक कि कई बार जो लैंडलॉर्ड्स होते थे उनको भी मार दिया जाता था. In 1902, such incidents took place on a large scale in South Russia. 1902 में ये जो काम था, killing of the murder of the landlords, that was on a very large scale in South Russia. By 1905, such incidents had become widespread and occurred all over Russia. 1905 तक ये बहुत आम चीज़ हो गई थी और रशिया में हर जगह ये होता जा रहा था. Russian peasants were also different from European peasants as periodically they pooled their land together and their commune divided it according to the needs of individual families. देखो इसका मतलब समझना. 1900 के टाइम, ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम 1905 के आसपास जो जितने भी किसान होते थे उन सब की ज़मीन को एक कर दिया जाता था. मतलब सबको कंबाइन कर दिया गया, पूलिंग हो जाती थी और उस पर खेती होती थी. और जिसका बड़ा जितना परिवार होता था, मान लो किसी के घर में 2 लोग हैं, किसी के घर में 10 लोग हैं, वट एवर यूज टू बी द पॉपुलेशन, जो भी प्रोडक्शन होता था उसके बेसिस पे प्रोडक्शन का डिवीज़न कर दिया जाता था. Now let's move to the other point, that is socialism in Russia. There were no legal political parties. देखो उस समय कोई भी legal political parties नहीं थी रशिया में. Before 1914, they were illegal. When the Russian Social Democratic Workers Party was founded in 1898 by Marxian socialists, it had to work as an illegal organization. 1898 में जो रशियन सोशल डेमोक्रेटिक वर्कर्स पार्टी बनी, इट वॉज वर्किंग एज एन इलीगल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. इट्स वर्क वॉज टू मोबिलाइज वर्कर्स, ऑर्गेनाइज स्ट्राइक. इसका काम क्या होता था? हमें लेबरों को एक साथ करना, स्ट्राइक्स करना और न्यूज़पेपर्स में उसको छापना. A socialist revolutionary party was organized in Russia in 1900. Remember the name? A socialist revolutionary party was organized in Russia in 1900. It worked in the Russian countryside as it was believed that peasants and not workers would be the main force of revolution. This party worked for the welfare of the peasants. Their demand was that the peasants should become the owner of land in the possession of the nobles. इन लोग की डिमांड भी बहुत डिफरेंट. इनकी डिमांड्स क्या थी कि जिन पीजेंट्स जिन जिन जगहों पे काम कर रहे हैं, जिन जिन खेतों में काम कर रहे हैं जो कि नोबल्स की है, वो उनके हाथों से लेके इन लेबर्स के हाथ में, इन पीजेंट्स के हाथ में दे देनी चाहिए. सोशल डेमोक्रेट्स डिड नॉट एग्री विद द व्यू ऑफ द सोशलिस्ट रेवोल्यूशनरीज. जो सोशल डेमोक्रेट्स थे वो इनकी बातों से, जो सोशल डेमोक्रेटिक वर्कर्स पार्टी वाले थे, दे वर नॉट एक्सेप्टिंग द आइडियाज ऑफ सोशलिस्ट रेवोल्यूशनरी पार्टी. लेनिन फेल्ट दैट द पीजेंट्स वर नॉट वन यूनाइटेड ग्रुप. सम वर कैपिटलिस्ट who employed workers in their fields. Some were laborers, some were rich, and some were poor. The party became divided over how the organization should work. अब ये पूरी पार्टी जो थी वो टूटती जा रही थी. Lenin, the leader of the Bolshevik group. Lenin किस पार्टी के नेता थे? He was of the Bolshevik group. Wanted that a disciplined party should be organized with the number and quality controlled by the leader. The Mensheviks wanted the party should have members. अच्छा, मेंशविक की चाहत क्या थी कि पार्टी शुड हैव मेंबर्स फ्रॉम पूरे रशिया के लोग, रशिया के अलग पार्ट्स के लोग इसके मेंबर हो. एंड देयर शुड बी नो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस ऑन देम. और उनके ऊपर कोई भी रिस्ट्रिक्शंस, कोई भी उनके ऊपर रोक टोक ना हो, वो लोग पूरी तरीके से फ्री हो. ये इनकी सोच थी. मतलब बोल्शेविक की और मेंशविक सबके जो आइडियोलॉजीज थी वो चेंज होती जा रही थी. Now let's talk about the point. The first Russian Revolution of 1905. सबसे पहला कौन सा रेवोल्यूशन हुआ था? That was the first revolution of 1905. The year 1904 brought about disasters in Russia. It was especially bad for the Russian workers. जो 1904 1904 का जो वर्ष था वो बहुत नुकसानदेह था रशिया के लिए, खास करके रशिया के जो वर्कर्स थे. देयर वॉज ए स्टीप हाइक इन द प्राइसेस ऑफ एसेंशियल गुड्स. जो एसेंशियल गुड्स होते हैं उनके दामों में भारी इंक्रीजमेंट हो गई. वेयरएस जो वर्कर्स की जो उनकी सैलरीज थी वो 20% घट गई. मार्केट का दाम बढ़ रहा है और लेबर्स की सैलरी घट रही है. The membership of the Workers' Association had risen at a frantic rate. Putilov Iron Works dismissed 4 members of the Assembly of Russian Workers in 1904. There was an immediate reaction. अच्छा, पूरे देश में रिएक्शंस होने लगे. कुछ ही समय में, कुछ ही दिनों में करीब 1,10,000 1,10,000 वर्कर्स इन सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग वो लोग स्ट्राइक पे चले गए और डिमांड कर रहे थे किन चीज़ों के लिए? वर्किंग आवर्स घटाए जाएं, सैलरी बढ़ाई जाए और जो वर्किंग कंडीशंस है उसको इम्प्रोवाइज किया जाए. याद रखना इस पॉइंट को. ऑल द वर्कर्स मीन्स नियरली 1,10,000 वर्कर्स दे गैदर्ड इन सेंट पीटर्सबर्ग और वहाँ पे उन्होंने अपने पॉइंट्स रखे. वर्किंग आवर्स रिड्यूस करें, सैलरीज बढ़ाई जाए और जो वर्किंग कंडीशंस है दैट शुड बी इम्प्रोवाइज्ड. एट दिस टाइम the Tsar was all in all. He was not subject to parliament. Liberals in Russia wanted to end the autocratic rule of Tsar. समझो, जो liberals थे वो कज़ार्स का रूल हटाना चाहते थे. वो लोग किसके साथ मिल गए? They joined hands with the social democrats and the socialist revolutionary and worked with the peasants and workers during the revolution of 1905. They wanted a new constitution. Their demands were supported by nationalists and by jihadists who wanted a modernized Islam to lead their societies. मतलब जो liberals थे वो merge कर गए दूसरी parties के साथ because they wanted to bring the changes. The revolution of 1905 was triggered off by the humiliating defeat of Russia. लेकिन इसमें उल्टा हुआ. जो revolution of 1905 था, it was triggered off by the humiliating. Russia इसमें हार गया था in Russo-Japanese War of 1904-5. जो रूस और जापान का वॉर था उसमें रूस हार गया था. Shocked by the defeat, inflicted by a small island nation Japan and the poverty prevailing throughout Russia, the people revolted against the government. अब समझो इसका मतलब क्या था. 1904-1905 में there was a war between Japan and Russia. साइज में कौन सा बड़ा देश है? In area, which nation is bigger? Children, answer this question. In area, which nation is large? Answer it fast. Yes, children, I am waiting for your response. See, Japan got the victory and Russia was being defeated. अच्छा, जब भी देश कोई बैटल हारता है तो सबसे पहला असर किस पे पड़ेगा? Now the only thing was that now the people wanted to change the government, कि सरकार को बदल दिया जाए. The main intention was to change the government. See, my other point is Bloody Sunday. What was this Bloody Sunday? The workers marched to the Winter Palace. The workers marched to the Winter Palace. Okay, just now Priyansh is giving me the answer. Sir, Russia is the biggest nation. Russia is large in area as compared to Japan. So just think कि अगर बड़ा देश हार जाता है छोटे देश से, Japan is very small in size and it has defeated Russia. So what would be the reaction of the people? The reaction of the people would be they would like to change the government. जो इसकी भी सरकार होगी, जनता उस सरकार को बदलना चाहे. And this only gave shape to Bloody Sunday. Now let's talk about the Bloody Sunday. The workers marched to the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg of the Tsar, led by Father Gapon on January 22nd, 1905. They were marching peacefully, carrying their petition to the Tsar. Peaceful march थी, अपना जो भी उनके होर्डिंग्स वगैरह थे लेके चल रहे थे. The imperial guard was fixed on the unarmed crowd of several thousand persons. Over 100 workers were killed and more than 300 wounded. अब इसमें क्या किया? करीब 100 वर्कर्स मारे गए और 300 करीब घायल हो गए. This event, इस चीज को we remember it by the name of Bloody Sunday and started a series of events. और इसके बाद कई सारे events होने लगे जिसको हम कहते हैं as the revolution of 1905. It smashed the benevolent little father image of the Tsar that the Russians believed in. अभी तक जो Russians believe करते थे कजार की पावर में, वो खत्म हो गई. The strikes took place all over the country. Lawyers, doctors, engineers और जो भी middle class people थे वो लोग चाहते थे constituent assembly बने. Their demand was that a constituent assembly should be formed. The Union of Unions was established. Universities closed down and students, universities, schools वगैरह बंद हो गए और जितने भी university के students थे they staged walkouts. The army and navy were also involved. जो आर्मी और नेवी थी वो भी इन्वॉल्व हो गए इस प्रोटेस्ट में. Why? Because in this the innocent people were killed. Innocent workers and their family members were killed. The sailors of the battleship Potemkin joined the revolutionaries. The sailors of the battleship Potemkin, they also joined the revolutionaries. Out of these protests, a new organization developed which came to be known as the Soviet of Workers. और इसमें एक नया ग्रुप merge out हुआ, एक नया ग्रुप बना and that group is known by the name of Soviet of Workers. The peasants also formed their Soviets. These organizations later became the instrument, और ये जो organizations बन रही थी, these organizations later became the instrument of political change in Russia. रशिया में जितने चेंजेस हुए थे उसके पीछे मेन कारण यही था. Now the next point is, इसी को हम थोड़ा सा आगे कंटिन्यू करते हैं. देखो, अक्टूबर 1905 में Tsar Nicholas issued an October Manifesto recognizing civil rights. उन्होंने सिविल राइट्स के बारे में मेंशन किया जो रशिया के लोग हैं उनके लिए, और एक इलेक्टेड नेशनल लेजिस्लेचर कॉल्ड द ड्यूमा. A large number of unions and factory committees were allowed to exist. But after 1905, most committees and unions were declared illegal. लेकिन 1905 के बाद जितने भी कमिटीज थे या जो यूनियंस था उन सबको इलीगल डिक्लेयर कर दिया गया. एंड दे हैड टू वर्क अनऑफिशियली. और वो लोग कैसे, कमिटीज यूनियंस कैसे काम कर रहे थे? अनऑफिशियल, इलीगल तरीके से. द फर्स्ट ड्यूमा वॉज डिसमिस्ड बाय द जार विद इन 75 days. जो पहली ड्यूमा बनी मिनिस्टर्स वाली वो डिसॉल्व कर गई 75 days में. सेकेंड ड्यूमा वॉज इलेक्टेड, 3 महीने में सेकेंड ड्यूमा आई. द जार curbed the authority of the Duma. He did not allow any questioning of his authority or reduction of his power. अब देखो प्रॉब्लम क्या आ रही थी. जो किंग था, इनका टारगेट ये था, ये चाहते थे कि उनकी जो भी अथॉरिटीज़ हैं उनसे कोई क्वेश्चनिंग ना करे और उनके अथॉरिटी के ऊपर, किंग की अथॉरिटी के ऊपर कोई क्वेश्चन मार्क नहीं लगना चाहिए, उनकी पावर्स नहीं घटनी चाहिए. द थर्ड ड्यूमा इन 1906 वॉज पैक्ड with conservative politicians. Lenin and other hardline Bolsheviks went back into exile to dream of the next time. So Lenin थे और जितने Bolshevik ग्रुप के फॉलोअर्स थे वो सब अगले चांस का उम्मीद कर रहे थे. The first Russian Revolution had ended. पहला रशियन रेवोल्यूशन एंड हो चुका था. Now let's talk about, इसके बाद है The First World War and the foundation of the Soviet state. अब क्या था? देखो, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर उधर स्टार्ट हो गया था एंड फाउंडेशन ऑफ द सोवियत स्टेट इन 1904. 1904 में, एज यू ऑल नो चिल्ड्रन, देयर स्टार्टेड अ वॉर और दो पावर्स थी वहाँ पे. इट वॉज डिवाइडेड इनटू टू. वन वॉज द ट्रिपल अलायंस और इट कैन कॉल इट बाय द, एंड द अदर टीम वॉज ट्रिपल एंटेंटे, और यू कैन से Germany, Austria, Turkey. They were known by the name of Central Powers. और दूसरी तरफ France, Britain, Russia, later Italy and Romania also joined it, were the allies. एक तरफ Central Power और एक तरफ allies. इसको हम कहते हैं, this war was known by the name of First World War. Was fought in Europe as well as outside Europe. ये जो वॉर था, इट वॉज फॉट इन यूरोप, ऑन लैंड, इन एयर एंड वाटर ऑल्सो, मीन्स जल, थल, वायु, तीनों का इसमें इस्तेमाल हुआ था. इन द बिगिनिंग द रशियन पीपल सपोर्टेड द ज़ार्स पार्टिसिपेशन इन द वॉर, बट स्लोली पॉपुलर सपोर्ट बिकेम वीक. द ज़ार डिड नॉट कंसल्ट द ड्यूमा. जो ज़ार था वो ड्यूमा की हेल्प नहीं ले रहा था. ही हैड जॉइन्ड द वॉर होपिंग टू ग्रैब Constantinople and the Straits of Dardanelles. Anti-German feelings ran high in Russia. अब जो रशियंस थे उनकी जो फीलिंग्स थी जर्मन्स की थी वो टोटली नेगेटिव थी. They were having anti-German feelings. This could be seen in the renaming of St. Petersburg, a German name, as Petrograd. देखो, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर जो था वो दो फ्रंट्स पे लड़ा गया था. ऑन वन साइड द ईस्टर्न एंड द वेस्टर्न. The method of warfare was different on both fronts. दोनों तरफ, चाहे ईस्टर्न हो या वेस्टर्न फ्रंट, जो वॉर लड़ने का तरीका था that was totally different. In the west, the war was fought from trenches. अभी trenches होता क्या है? It means a long narrow excavation in the ground spread along the eastern France. In the east, the armies marched and fought battles which ended in great casualties. The involvement proved total and further increased the misery of the common people of Russia. लेकिन इसमें नुकसान रशिया का हो रहा था. जो आम जनता थी, जो पब्लिक थी, कैजुअलिटीज बढ़ती जा रही थी, नुकसान पे नुकसान हो रहा था. The Russian army lost badly in Germany and Austria between 1914 and 1917. There were over 7 million casualties. सोचो, सुन लो बच्चों, 7 million casualties were there between 1914 and 1917. The Russian army destroyed crops and buildings and it retreated. It did not want them to fall into enemy hands. This created 3 million refugees in Russia. Shock, demoralization and a desire not to fight the war followed. और इसके बाद रशियंस का टारगेट एक ही था, हम कोई लड़ाई नहीं लड़ेंगे. Russia did not have the industrial capacity to fight this war. और रशिया के पास इतनी इंडस्ट्रियल कैपेसिटी नहीं थी कि इस लड़ाई को वो और आगे चला सके. It had a very bad impact on its industry. इसका असर किसका पड़ा? पूरी की पूरी इंडस्ट्रीज पे. By 1916, railway lines began to break down. There were labor shortage and shortage of essential goods. Bread, flour and essential goods disappeared from the cities and bread strikes followed. देखो, वॉर होता है तो असर किस पे पड़ता है? इंडस्ट्रीज पे. इंडस्ट्रीज पे असर पड़ेगा तो क्या होगा? जो आम जनता की रोज की जरूरतें हैं, जैसे ब्रेड है, सामान है, आटा है, जरूरी चीजें, ये सब भी मार्केट से एकदम गायब होने लगी थी. देयर वाज अ कंप्लीट शटर डाउन और लैकिंग और डिक्रीज इन द अमाउंट्स ऑफ दिस. Now children, for this first topic, let's have the MCQ. Children, are you ready for that? Yes, children, are you ready for the multiple choice questions? Okay, now I am moving to the multiple choice questions. Okay, my first question. सबसे पहला सवाल देखो. Why did some liberals and radicals become revolutionaries in France, Italy, Russia, etc.? First option, they wanted to concentrate powers in their own hands. Option B, they wanted to overthrow the existing monarchs. And option C, they were against equal rights. And option D is none of the above. Yes, children, Priyansh, Abhishek, send your answers fast. Okay, so 3 children have sent: Vaibhav, Divyansh, Prithvi. Okay, yes children, the correct answer is option B. And the option is they wanted to overthrow the existing monarchs. The next question would be soon visible on your screen. The question is, when was the Socialist Revolutionary Party formed in Russia? You can see the question now. Options are 1898, 1900, 1905, 1910. Okay, all of you have sent me option A, but the exact answer is 1900. The exact answer for this question is 1900. And today only we have read this topic. Today only I have taught you that by the 1900 a new party emerged out. Now, let's move to the other question. My other question is, see children, I have taught you today in the heading of Socialism in Russia, a socialist revolutionary party was organized in Russia in 1900. It worked in the Russian countryside as it was believed that peasants and not workers would be the main force of a revolution. Here's Weber. A socialist revolutionary party was organized in Russia in 1900. Okay, the next question. You can see the next question. By the mid-19th century, by the mid-19th century in Europe, the idea which attracted widespread attention on the restructuring of society was option A, capitalism, option B, socialism, option C, dictatorship, and option D, none of the above. Yes, Priyansh, Prithvi and Vaibhav Sachan have sent their answers. I am waiting for the other candidates. Send your answer, children. Abhishek Yadav, Anjana, send your answer, children. The correct answer is socialism. The correct answer is, children, socialism. So good, those who are giving the answers in a fast manner, it's good to see. Now, the next question will be soon visible on your screen. The question is, the procession of workers to the Winter Palace was attacked by the police, killing 100 workers. This incident is called Black Sunday, Bloody Sunday, Rebellious Sunday, or option D, Unlucky Sunday. Good, Divyansh, Vaibhav. Other people also send your answer. Prithvi. Good. Yes, correct answer. A few people have given the correct answer. Now, let's move to the other question. The answer is Bloody Sunday. My next question is, which of the following is true about the peasants of Russia? Option A, except in few cases, they had no respect for the nobility. Option B, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. Option C, frequently they refused to pay rent and even murdered the landlords. वैभव, सी द ऑप्शंस अगेन बेटा, एक बार फिर से ऑप्शंस पे नजर मारो. Prithvi, you also look back into the options again. Okay, children. The correct answer for this question is, which of the following is true about the peasants of Russia? All the options are confusing. First option is, except in a few cases they had no respect for the nobility. Option B, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. Option C, frequently they refused to pay rent and even murdered the landlords. That points are right. But the exact answer for this question is option B. And the option B is, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. So children, that's all for today, and try to learn the questions because so many short questions can be made. And in the other class, in the coming week, I'll be starting from the February Revolution. This chapter will take nearly 2 more periods. Okay, so start preparing and learning this chapter. And that's all for today.